Hey guys, so today I wanted to tell a story time. It's a really crazy story time, but it happened to me, and now that I look back at it, it's really kind of funny. But it was not funny at the moment. It was really messed up. So anyways, today I want to talk about the time when I caught God, this is crazy. Okay. When I caught my boyfriend sleeping with the man next door. Yes. Oh, okay. So, anyways, I don't know if you guys remember the guy I was telling you about in not my last story time, but a story time. I think it was, no, it wasn't a story time. It was domestic violence video. Anyways, this is the same guy, right? I should have known. But anyway, so basically we lived in these apartments. We lived in Toronto, and we lived in these apartments, and if anybody knows like how the living system is there, like, you know, everything is stacked together, like it's like a building, like New York, like it's, you know, we lived in a building and we had a hall or whatever. People lived across next door. So I lived almost at the end of the hall, and then I had this neighbor who lived across from me, and he was a Jamaican guy, and he seemed normal. Like, I didn't even know anything about him or anything. So anyways, my boyfriend would be like, oh yeah, the neighbor guy, he's really nice and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay. And like, even one day I saw him driving his car, and I'm like, why are you driving his car? Why would he let you drive his car? And he's like, oh, he's my friend, he's really nice. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And so okay, let me think. So as the time went by, my boyfriend would go to the neighbor's house, just go all to the neighbor's house, and I'd be like, why are you going over there? And so one day he told me that he was gay, so I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, whatever, you know. And he's like, yeah, he has his boyfriend, and then they have a friend, and then they live there, and like he even was like, well, some of them are married and all this. I'm like, oh my god, that's just crazy, whatever. I didn't know anything about that life. So anyway, so I would just notice that he'd always be with him. He'd bring food from his house, and I'd be like, where'd you get that? He'd be like, oh, he made it for me, blah blah blah. So I'm like, oh my gosh, whatever. So anyways, I was planning on moving from where I lived, and I didn't want to take anything with me because I just wanted to move. Like, I wanted to move on the other side of town completely. Like, I lived in Lakeshore, I wanted to live in Kingston. Like, that is total opposite ends. Like, it's very far away. And so anyway, so I'm like, okay, I don't want to take nothing with me. And so like, as soon as I said this, and like, this should have been a red flag. See, when you're young, you're so stupid, you don't even think of these things. So I'm like, I don't want to take nothing with me. And so he was like, okay. So it seems like every time I'd come home, something would be gone. I'm like, okay, where's my radio? He'd be like, oh, I sold it. I'm like, why? He's like, oh, we're moving, we're not taking anything. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'd be like, come home, and then I'd be like, well, where's my DVD player? Oh, I sold it. And I'm like, oh my god, what? Like, what do you mean? And then one day I came home and my kitchen table was gone, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is so weird. Like, what are you doing? Who are you selling this stuff to? And so that like always crossed my mind, but I know I had like a month to go. So I just like, I don't even know what I was thinking at that time, because at that time I was just like a really messed up person and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So I probably wasn't in my right mind either. So anyway, so one day I had went looking for him, and I was like, oh, let me check the guy's house, whatever. So I knock on the door, and the guy opens the door, and he opens his door, and I swear to you, all my stuff from my house was in this man's house. I'm like, oh my god, all my stuff is here. Like, you're furnishing your home with my stuff. Like, that is just the craziest thing I ever saw. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? I asked him. He's like, oh, he gave me good prices, blah blah, he just wants to help me and all this stuff. So I'm still thinking, oh my gosh, okay, well, whatever. Not even realizing that the neighbor guy is gay, like, but not even thinking that my boyfriend would do anything like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Still, I'm like, whatever. So finally one day the neighbor comes knocking at my door, and the neighbor's like, oh, he said that he owes you money and I'm gonna pay his debt for him. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know you. You barely even know him. You're gonna pay his debt. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean you're gonna give me money because he owes me money? So why would you do that or whatever? And he's like, oh, because I just want you out of his life. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what are you saying? And I see my boyfriend, he's like winking like in the background, and I'm like, what is this? This is so crazy. So anyways, I'm like, okay, whatever. I think I said some large amount of money, and like the guy gave it to me. The guy actually gave me the money, and I'm like, what the heck? And so my boyfriend, he leaves, and then like 20 minutes later he comes back. He's like, oh, yeah, I just told him. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What are you doing with this guy? This is crazy. So later on that day, like my boyfriend left, and I'm just like dwelling on it and like thinking about it. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What the fuck? This is so weird. Like, why would this guy do this? Why? All these things were going through my mind. Why was he driving his car? Why does he bring in food? Why is my house furnished? Why is my furniture in his house? Like, why all of these things? So I'm just thinking, I'm brewing all this stuff up. I'm getting mad. And on top of that, I couldn't find my boyfriend. So I go over, I was like, let me go to the neighbor, he's probably over there. So I knock on the door. Like, no, I banged on that door. I banged and I kicked on that door, and I guess it scared him. So he was like, I'm calling the cops. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I wasn't even scared of that. Like, I was just so angry and crazy that I didn't even care. So he called the cops on me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm not even thinking my boyfriend's there. I'm just thinking, okay, me and this guy are fighting or whatever. The cops come. The guy opens the door. My boyfriend is right there telling the cops I'm harassing them and that I need to leave. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'm like, you're fucking him? You're with the neighbor now? What are you doing? He totally turned on me. He totally was a totally different person. He acted like he didn't even know me. Why was I there? Like, that was his lover, and that I was disturbing them, and that I was crazy and all this stuff. And so the police were like, ma'am, you need to leave or you're gonna get arrested or whatever. And so I'm like, oh well, shit, bye. Like, I'm going into my house, and I'm just thinking, wow, he really turned on me. He's really gay with the neighbor. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, if he's gay, he's gay. Let him be gay, whatever. He do what he wants to do. But I feel like if you're going to be doing stuff like that, you need to inform your partner or the other person, especially if you're a man and you're with a woman and then you're sleeping with men. Like, that's my decision to make if I want to sleep with you, if I'm okay with you doing that. Because, like, that's crazy. Like, that's just disrespectful and rude. And like, if he wanted to be gay, he could have just said, hey, I'm gay, I want to be with him, and that would have been fine. But the fact that he drugged me into it and played me like that made me even more mad. And then like, this guy, he sleeps around, like, he has different guys all the time. So it's like, well, if he's sleeping with him and then he's sleeping with me and he's sleeping with all these other people, my God, like, who's gonna pay for it? Me. Like, I didn't want to be in a situation like that because it's just not fair to me. I felt like I didn't have a decision. But anyway, so if that ever happens to anybody, please, guys or girls or whoever, let the person know, because that's their decision to make if they're okay with doing that and stuff like that, especially if you're not using protection. But anyways, so I went back to my apartment and I'm like, you know what, fuck him, this is weird, no, I'm done or whatever. So he comes back later that night and he's like so happy, like, not even like nothing happened, like, don't even acknowledge it. I'm like, wait a minute, do you see what just happened? You guys called the cops on me, you act like you didn't know me, you did all this to me for him. And he's like, oh, I just had to do that for him. And I'm like, what do you mean you had to do that for him? Are you guys, what are you guys doing? What are you together? And he's like, oh, he just gives me money and stuff. And I'm like, no, this is not right. No man is gonna do that, especially if, like, he likes you. He clearly told you he likes you, because my boyfriend had told me that he told him that he liked him and stuff. So like, it's not gonna happen like that. So he just kept doing it and kept doing it. And then finally, you know, one day, after all that stuff happened that I told you with the domestic violence, after all that, and then I caught him again, and then I'm like, you know what, I can't do this. So I completely left and went on the other side of town. And I was like, I'm not going to be involved in this because number one, it's dangerous and you're not even being faithful. So there's no point of the relationship anyways. Plus you're like on some other stuff. So I don't even want to be a part of it. So the whole time I was living there, basically, he was sleeping with the neighbor guy, and I didn't even put two and two together. I didn't even think about it. I am so stupid. I didn't even think that he could have been doing this until later, until it all happened, until they called the police, until the guy confronted me with the money, until stuff like that. And like when you're young, you're not thinking about that because you're just like really into the person and you're just having fun and stuff. But you gotta think about stuff like that. If your man is getting too close, like with a guy friend, and it just feels weird, then something's probably going on. I don't know, maybe. Or if your girl is too close or whatever, I don't know. Like there's just so many red flags that I could have saw, but I didn't see because I was blinded and stupid and young and dumb and all of that stuff. So I just want to tell that story time because that was weird and crazy, and it's never happened to me again, I don't think. And so yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys that, and let me know if you guys have ever been through anything like that where like your boyfriend tried to hide that he was really gay, or if your girlfriend tried to hide that she was really gay. I mean, whatever, it goes both ways. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. If that's who you are, that's who you are. I just feel like you should be honest because it's not fair to the other person, and we have rights to, and we have to make that decision if we're into that. So again, if anybody's doing anything like that, make sure you tell the other person. If anybody's been through it, let me know and share your story. And I hope you guys enjoyed my little story time, and I definitely will have many more to come. Alright, bye guys.